Edward here from the Crypto Viewing Group. I just want to start out here with a quick plug here from my buddies over here, Crypto Viewing Group. I have the link to our Patreon site. Just a quick plug here. We got all kinds of really cool stuff. Very timely. Dealing with the world we live in, the world we're moving into, and the changes that are taking place. So that's my plug for my buddies over at the Crypto Viewing Group. Check us out, subscribe, we got a lot of content. What I'm going to be talking about is for my personal content, what I call my vacation targets with my buddy Dustin. And I'll have the full sessions and the more detailed stuff I'll have available for my Patreon subscribers. This is going to be the short version here for the YouTube. I just finished a project with Dustin. The target was pi, the mathematical constant pi, and some sub-Qs along with that as well. Very interesting target, very interesting sessions. I think I have 4 or 5 sessions I think I have with this one. And they're fascinating. We're dealing with a mathematical concept. We're dealing with something that's with a target that is non-physical, because we're dealing with a mathematical concept, a mathematical constant, not the physical somethingness of it. There's elements of the physical somethingness, but the main element is a mathematical concept. Here is the tasking that Dustin created. There's target 86PAWO4Q, target initial contact, perceive, conceptualize, and describe the irrational number / mathematical constant known as pi. These are the subtasks or the sub-Qs. How does this present itself in nature? How does the concept present itself in man? What are the spiritual implications of this constant and the number itself, which was really interesting elements here that came through in these sessions. Perceive the number in its entirety. What other tangential concepts or processes does pi help to inform, which is a big question. What are the greater implications for pi for our species? Huge. We'll see an element of that in the first session. How was this concept conveyed in symbolic forms, both known to our species and unknown? Those were the questions. What is pi? For those who don't know, I'm going via Wikipedia, and I got a couple other references here too. But this is interesting of what the symbol means, and how that is associated with pi, the ratio of the radius and circumference of a circle. So it's dealing with circles and they're dealing with the sphere. But the Greek letter in the Greek alphabet, the letter is representing the sound. Representing the sound. What does that mean? What sound does it represent? Is it like biblical, in the beginning was the word kind of sound, the Big Bang? What sound are they talking about? Let me go through the quick version of this session here. Going through my preliminary stuff until I feel curiosity is triggered. My first thing that I got into was this idea of intelligent, smart, thinking, a processor, and this idea of advanced thinking. It had a biological feel, and it reminded me of a brain. Human brain or non-human brain, I don't know. There are things in here, the solid, fluffy, fibrous. Reminds me of a brain, an awareness, an intelligence, but it had a specific feel about it. There was this feeling of an awareness that is captive, boxed, imprisoned. Idea, question mark, means like that, question mark, captive, question mark, boxed, imprisoned, held, question mark. I'm trying to describe what I'm experiencing here. There's an awareness here to this target. It feels like it's being held back, suppressed. There's a feeling of suppression here. And I'll go into what I'm trying to conceive of what I may have been experiencing here. A very powerful awareness is here. But there's also a profound feeling of captivity. Captivity. A captive being, massive intelligence. AOL of the signal like a dragon. That's very interesting. Like a dragon. Question marks. Is it sleeping? Is it gripped? Is it held? Why is it held back? Is it too advanced? Is it too aware? Too intelligent? Its potential is too great? Who is being held back? Whose brain is being held back? Move to the awareness and describe. There's some awareness here. Telepathic. There's communication going on. Like it's just a brain with a nervous system inside of it and no body. Just this brain floating. But it's in a jar. AOL of the signal, like a brain in a jar. Again, this feeling of it's held inside of something. Move to a time when this awareness was not captive and it felt alien, like an advanced being, very high level. Move to the being's awareness and describe a 360-degree perspective, a 360-degree awareness. The circle here. These are the mathematical elements of pi, the radius, diameter, and circumference. An awareness that is 360 degrees. Is that our awareness? Is that the awareness that we are expressing? And I go into that further in the further sessions. There's a sad feeling about it, like it needs to move in order to experience and process. Now again, we're dealing with an abstract here. But here at this page, Pi Day, the first million digits of pi are below. It's constant. It's constant. If you get what I'm saying here. It needs to move in order to experience and process. It's constant. If you get what I'm saying. It moves and intakes. I had this like an octopus. Octopus, which now we're thinking maybe an alien life form here on Earth. As it moves through fields. It generates some type of tension or static, and that is absorbed. It feels okay. It doesn't feel threatening to me. Alien life form. What am I talking about there? Let me get this session out of the way and I'll go back to some of these ideas. Again, this is the short version. I go way further into this for my Patreon subscribers. Non-Earth biology, terraforming. There is a feeling of the captivity feeling. And I'll go into that again here real quick. Move to who is holding this captive and describe what's going on here. Is this AOL? Am I making stuff up here? Or is there something here generating our reality? Getting into DNA splicing. What does that have to do with pi? I don't know. This is what happens at conception. As we're coming into this reality, as a host is being generated for us, that's where we come in right here. Here we are. We come in via the sphere and pi is the calculation of that. Trying to escape bondage. And then I had to take a break. It was too much for me. I had a break after that. Okay, so here, these are gestalts. These are big picture observations of this strange concept that we call pi. Now let's look at a couple of interesting things here. Here's one. Now pi, as in the early stages of the someone being inspired to measure a circle or a sphere and creating the constant, they noticed that the radius or the circumference was typically three times the size of the radius. But as our ability to calculate expanded, our intelligence grew, our technology grew, our comprehension and understanding grew, so did our representation of what that mathematical radius actually is. And now we're calculating it into millions of digits, 3.1415, blah, 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 blah. This goes, just to give you an idea, this is where we are so far. This is the calculation of pi. Go down to the bottom, it keeps going. What does that mean? What does that mean? Does that mean we're becoming more sophisticated? The more comprehension we have, the more intelligence we gather, the more we are comprehending and able to measure what this actually is and how it relates to our experience of this reality, because that's where we come in. We come in through this. Here we are again, nuclear fission. There we are. There's our sphere, that for which our reality is based on, and the energy that it contains. There's another big sphere where little spheres spin around very fast inside of this big sphere and collide, and then we measure those reactions. We are obsessed with it. The Fibonacci is another mathematical construct that I feel is important to this, because the Fibonacci sequence defines the living, how we measure things physically in our reality, and how it correlates to from the macro to the micro to the macro level, and how we're inside of a giant Fibonacci spiral. Like our physical world, we can calculate it through the Fibonacci. And on the grander scale, the fullness of our reality that we perceive coming through the sphere. Here's some ancient representations of that. The Shiva, which very interestingly, you can find this giant Shiva at CERN, where the Large Hadron Collider is. These are the metaphysical or the ancient interpretations of these geometric symbols and how they relate to our reality. And it's nothing new. In the earth religions, they use the sphere, the circle, is all over the place. It governs the nature of our reality, I firmly believe, especially now after these sessions, and how we perceive reality. But what does that, how could this brain, where does this come from, this idea of an awareness that is being held captive? What other big sphere has another sphere around it, and we give it meaning of that type of something along that nature? Saturn, maybe. Saturn governs time, which we feel held captive inside of the realm of time as well. As that goes, there's our spheres for that. This is the first session. Again, this is the short version. The long version is for the Patreon. But what are the major gestalts here that I'm getting? I'm dealing with a mathematical constant. I'm getting the ideas of something that is holding an intelligence captive almost, held captive. Is that the nature of our reality? We're held captive in here. I believe we are. I believe we are held captive within the framework of the sphere, the geometric framework of the sphere. And I also feel very strongly that our awareness is governed inside of an electromagnetic sphere as well. And that electromagnetic spheres represents the threshold of our awareness, meaning our mind is in here. This is the threshold of awareness here. And as remote viewers, we pop through that, and we interact in and out of that realm. Out here is we have access to everything. In here, we're governed. We're governed. Those are my ideas about this. Very interesting. I think I did 5 sessions. This is just session number 1 as I'm making contact with this. Very abstract. This is very abstract stuff. This is very esoteric stuff. So I would suggest looking at this. Don't look at it from a material point of view. Look at this from an esoteric point of view. Look at this from an etheric point of view. And that's what I'm doing to in attempt to wrap my brain around what took place here. And I go further into these concepts in sessions 2, 3, 4, and 5, which will be coming up soon. So that is it. Thanks so much. Many more to come. Don't forget, check out my buddies, me and my friends at the Crypto Viewing Group, and then my Patreon is where the full version of this session will be as well, for if you want to become a Patreon subscriber for my stuff as well. Thank you so much. Many more to come.